Alright, continuing with the book, still in chapter 1. Why is it that virtually all reputable scholars and mass media columnists and commentators reject the cause and effect or conspiratorial theory of history? Primarily, most scholars follow the crowd in the academic world, just as most women follow fashions. To buck the tide means social and professional ostracism. The same is true of the mass media. While professors and pontificators profess to be tolerant and broad-minded, in practice it's strictly a one-way street, with all the traffic flowing left. A Maoist can be tolerated by liberals of ivory tower land or by the establishment's media pundits, but to be a conservative and a conservative who propounds a conspiratorial view is absolutely verboten. Verboten. What's that? Like Latin for forbidden?
Yes.
I don't know. Better you should be a drunk at a national WCTU convention. I don't know what that is. Secondly, these people have, over the years, acquired a strong vested emotional interest in their own errors. Their intellects and their egos are totally committed to the accidental theory. They have been conned or have shown poor judgment to inspect the evidence of the existence of a conspiracy guiding our political destiny from behind the scenes would force many of these people to repudiate a lifetime of accumulated opinions. Alright, that's important, and I didn't read it right, but I'm going to read it again. To inspect the evidence of the existence of a conspiracy guiding our political destiny from behind the scenes would force many of these people to repudiate a lifetime of accumulated opinions. It takes a person of strong character indeed to face the facts and admit he has been wrong, even if it was because he was uninformed. Such was the case with the author of this book. It was only because he set out to prove the conservative anti-communists wrong that he happened to end up writing this book. His initial reaction to the conservative point of view was one of suspicion and hostility. It was only after many months of intensive research that he had to admit he had been conned. Politicians and intellectuals are attracted to the concept that events are propelled by some mysterious tide of history or happen by accident. By this reasoning, they can hope to escape the blame when things go wrong. Most intellectuals, pseudo and otherwise, deal with the conspiratorial theory of history simply by ignoring it. They never attempt to refute the evidence. It can't be refuted. If and when the silent treatment doesn't work, objective scholars and mass media opinion molders resort to personal attacks, ridicule, and satire. The personal attacks tend to divert attention from the facts which an author or speaker is trying to expose. The idea is to force the person exposing the conspiracy to stop the exposure and spend his time and effort defending himself. However, the most effective weapons used against the conspiratorial theory of history are ridicule and satire. These extremely potent weapons can be cleverly used to avoid any honest attempt at refuting the facts. After all, nobody likes to be made fun of. Rather than be ridiculed, most people will keep quiet. And this subject certainly does lend itself to ridicule and satire. One technique which can be used to expand the conspiracy to the extent it becomes absurd. One technique which can be used is to expand the conspiracy to the extent it becomes absurd. I'm going to read that again. One technique which can be used is to expand the conspiracy to the extent it becomes absurd. Everyone is willing to admit that there is a little bit of a conspiracy going on. However, all anyone has to do to make them ignore that little bit of conspiracy they're aware of is expand the conspiracy into absurdity. And then that person thinks to talk about the little conspiracy I am aware of makes me sound absurd. You're going to get some pure 100% absurdity on this Conspiracy College channel. This is just the tip of the iceberg. This book written in the 60s by Gary Allen and Larry Abram. Whatever their agenda was, whatever they're exposing, they aren't exposing the whole conspiracy by any means. This is one minute arm of it, and it's really just the economic arm. That's all they're exposing, nothing else. And I'm sure these guys are Christians, and I'm sure they're conservatives. So they've been conned in a whole other way, just like he was talking about. They're under a whole more complex, more intelligent, more ancient con. But it's the same thing. All they're doing is exposing a recent arm of this conspiracy. And really, and because this, it's like he's saying, these facts that are given in this book are irrefutable. There's no way. What am I trying to say? I mean, it's common knowledge. Most of the stuff that's in this book. It's just unless you start here, unless you start to believe some of this stuff, you're never going to allow your mind's never going to be able to even entertain a more advanced conspiracy. So you've got to get this in your head first. So I stopped reading, and okay. One technique which can be used is to expand the conspiracy to the extent it becomes absurd. For instance, our man from the halls of Poison Ivy might say in a scoffingly arrogant tone, "I suppose you believe every liberal professor gets a telegram each morning from a conspiracy headquarters containing his orders for the day's brainwashing of his students." Some conspiratorialists do indeed overdraw the picture by expanding the conspiracy from the small clique which it is to include every local knee-jerk liberal activist and government bureaucrat. Okay, I'm going to read that again. Some conspiratorialists do indeed overdraw the picture by expanding the conspiracy from the small clique which it actually is to include every local knee-jerk, liberal activist, and government bureaucrat, or because of racial or religious bigotry, they will take fragments of legitimate evidence and expand them into conclusions that will support their particular prejudice. I.e., the conspiracy is totally Jewish, it is totally Catholic, it is totally Masonic. These people do not help to expose the conspiracy, but sadly play into the hands of those who want the public to believe that all conspiratorialists are screwballs. I'm not making very fast progress. I'm going to keep reading that. Tell me what's not done. Yeah. Intellectuals are fond of mouthing cliches like, "The conspiracy theory is often tempting, however, it is overly simplistic." To ascribe absolutely everything that happens to the machinations, is that how it's pronounced? Machinations of a small group of power-hungry conspirators is overly simplistic. But in our opinion, nothing is more simplistic than doggedly holding on to the accidental view of major world events. In most cases, liberals simply accuse all those who discuss the conspiracy of being paranoid. "Ah, you right-wingers," they say, rustling every bush, kicking over every rock, looking for imaginary boogeymen. Then comes the coup de grace, labeling the conspiratorial theory as the devil theory of history. The liberals love that one, even though it is an empty phrase. It sounds so sophisticated. You following along? Yeah. Somewhat? With the leaders of the academic and communications world assuming this sneering attitude towards the conspiratorial or cause and effect theory of history, it is not surprising that millions of innocent and well-meaning people, in a natural desire not to appear naive, assume the attitudes and repeat the cliches of the opinion makers. These persons, in their attempt to appear sophisticated, assume their mentor's air of smug superiority, even though they themselves have not spent 5 minutes in study on the subject of international conspiracy. Was that 9 minutes? Yeah. Right. That's enough for now.